Hey everybody, welcome to the Cyber Monday show. First thing is first, how about those Chiefs? Anyway, let's dive right into it. I'm joined by Makeshift, the Vikings fan. How's it going?
Dude, I'm finally repping some Republic of Hackers gear.
Let's go.
Man, it took forever to get some of this stuff.
That looks good. So actually, important question. A link to the Republic of Hackers merch store. Is that in the Discord?
It is in the Twitter.
In the Twitter.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you go to our Twitter account, in the description, there is a link to the Redbubble store, and exclusive right here, we actually just released a new design on the store today. Go check it out. It's fantastic.
Well, we are also joined by another MVP, Jake. How's it going, good sir?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm super stoked to be here.
Man, it's great to have you on. I've been kind of like, watching some of your videos. Dude, you've been crushing it. So what got you into, making content on YouTube and walking through HackTheBox, and you've been doing PortSwigger? What are some of the other things that you're planning on diving into?
Yeah, so I kind of actually got into YouTube because of the PortSwigger stuff. So I noticed I was going through the academy, and the first handful of categories, like the SQL injection, the cross-site scripting, there's a list under the solutions tabs of all these YouTube videos that you can go and check out and watch all these great solutions. But I noticed that a lot of them were super outdated. They'd updated the academy since a lot of these videos were made. And then the further and further you got into it, the less and less videos that there were associated with the lab. Some of them didn't even have any. And I know they're still building it out, but I was like, I want to get into that. I want to start building some videos around this. And then I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. I actually like making videos. I like making the content. So I started going more towards the HackTheBox side, because I loved HackTheBox. It's kind of what sparked me going after a pen testing gig and wanting to go down that area of my career. And I noticed they had they just added this starting point track, which is pretty new. And I thought it was really cool because it was beginner friendly. And I know that was a huge point with HackTheBox. Back when I was in college, HackTheBox was really hard. They only had these really difficult machines. It wasn't very beginner friendly. You still had to hack your way into the website to even sign up for an account. So I kind of wanted to start moving into that space and, make some content for some beginner style content for some people that wanted to, just kind of ease their way into it a little bit, because I know it's very intimidating in some of those things. You look at people doing these walkthroughs and you're like, oh my God, they might know everything. So being able to make some content on that beginner style stuff really got me going in. And I recently just kind of shifted my focus, still on the HackTheBox space, but I'm doing the OSCP right now. So, there's that list of machines on HackTheBox that TJ Null kind of went through and said, these emulate the OSCP exam super well. And I know there's been a couple of people that have done them, but I wanted to go through and, kind of use it for myself. But also kind of make some content on those boxes. And I've been kind of going in that direction for the past month or so. I'll probably be going at that for quite some time, because there's quite a few of those, and those videos take a little bit of time to edit and throw together.
Yeah, I mean, editing definitely can balloon, the timeline with getting stuff out. I feel you on that one. But that's sick. That's awesome. And we met with Infinite Logins, Harley, last week, and asked him last week, how has making content helped learn and further understand a lot of this stuff as he's teaching. So same thing for you, as you're preparing for the OSCP, and I mean, you said you're in pen testing now. How has this really helped not only advance your understanding for pen testing, but also with setting for the OSCP?
Yeah, well, first of all, listen to the podcast stream last week with Harley. He's awesome, dude. Very knowledgeable person. Really, really cool guy. I've never got to meet him myself, but very, very cool guy. I loved it last week. But honestly, kind of making the content on the flip side of, it's one thing to just go through a walkthrough and just read somebody's write up and be like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of something that way before. Making the content, and I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this, it's so different because you have to be very meaningful about every single thing that you do. And you have to be very honest with yourself. You're like, do I understand exactly what this is doing all the way down to like a fundamental level? Like, can I explain this to somebody else to have them understand it? So making these videos has actually like helped me solidify a lot of the things that I'd already been doing. And honestly, I've learned a lot on things that I thought I knew what I was doing. So, you like start doing things and you have to be honest with yourself. You're like, oh man, you know what? Like maybe I have a little bit of like a gap in my knowledge right there. Like I need to actually like read on that a little bit more so I can, explain this in a way that's digestible. And it's not just, point A goes to point B like it is in my head. You got to really, really think about how you can explain that to somebody else. So that's been super, super cool. And I've learned a lot through making those videos. The OSCP has been really, really cool. I've noticed it's very like different, I would say. So there's some things that like are extremely easy on that. And then there's some things that are actually like super difficult, which I thought was super interesting because I was like mega scared of going after the OSCP. I had only heard like horror stories. In my mind, I was like, the OSCP is this, this monster. It's insurmountable. And you have to be this like elite hacker who's just like fluent on the command line that, like just left and right knows things right off the top of their head. And that's just not really the case. So that's also part of the reason why I wanted to make these videos, give a little transparency on it. Cause that's something that I didn't really have like back in college. That content didn't exist. And I wish I did have that.
Yeah, I feel you. That's awesome. And it's so cool that, you're enumerating those gaps that you mentioned. It can be a very humbling process when you're, I guess, writing like a script for a video, or maybe you're kind of mapping out the things that you want to cover. Yeah, I feel you. I've been there before where it's just kind of like, I don't know if I can make a video about this quite yet.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually saw a really good point on Twitter this morning. I replied to the tweet, and it's totally blanking my mind who sent it out. But he basically said, like, a good thing that people should start doing when they're making these walkthrough videos is be transparent about how much time it took you to go through this yourself. Did you use other walkthroughs? Did you have to watch somebody else's video on this? Is this your own solution? How much time did it take? And that's actually a really, really good point that kind of resonated with me because, these people that are just getting in, sure, like some of the very easy things on HackTheBox, we could, plug away and root the box in like 25 minutes, right? But something like what I just covered, there's like the insane machines on HackTheBox. That one took me like 10, 11 days to even figure out where the initial foothold was at. So that was like 10 days of shooting video that I had to cut down on. And I want to be transparent about that because like if you just watch my walkthrough, it looks like I sit there and plug away for 42 minutes and then boom, box rooted. Is that realistic? Like, no, not even in the littlest bit. And I think that's important for people to know too. Like, there's people that are even smarter than I am, people that are way smarter than I am, that it might take them a long time too. So I think that style of video, if you're not transparent about it, it can, kind of discourage, it can do the opposite of what you're trying to make it do.
Well, I was going to say too, a couple things I just kind of want to retouch on is the fact that, when you're making these videos, you're really making sure that like, you're not just breezing through the box while you're, recording or whatever. Like you're going in and you're saying, okay, like this is what I did. And this is a little bit on like why I did this, and you're kind of digging deeper into it. Because like I know, I've watched some other videos or where people they just breeze through it and they don't tell you, and they just like expect you to kind of know what they were thinking, and you're just like, dude, like I've never done this box before. Like you gotta maybe slow down just a little bit and maybe explain how you came to that conclusion, and how you came to using maybe this particular tool over a different one. Why did you use this particular nmap command instead of, whatever. I forget what I was going to say on the other one. It's a Monday, man. We're all blanking out.
I feel it. It is a great point though. Like I'll even go back and look at things. Like there's a whole section on it for like the OSCP, and it's just using nmap. And I had to reevaluate. Like I had my nmap scan just burnt into my mind, because you do it for the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah, there's a million different switches you can use on nmap, but like how often are you actually going to need to use a stealth scan? How often do you actually, like all those different switches? So you just have these things burnt in your mind. And it's interesting if you take a step back, making the videos and going through like some different content, seeing different people's perspectives on things can be really, really beneficial. That's one thing that, I've always kind of like lived by, especially within like, the academic space or the infosec space, is just like really being able to, step aside from what you already know. Like, even if it's somebody explaining the basics to you over again, like something that you've heard a million times, you might not have heard somebody else explain it in the way that it clicks in their mind. And that might be something that makes something else click for you. So I've just learned that, not to have imposter syndrome, but just know that there's so much knowledge that you can't know everything. Like listening to people is so big. It's so big. And that's something that I've been working on myself. I know somebody on Twitter the other day, I made a tweet about it. I want to say it was Andrew, like replied about it and said he gave like a whole talk on it. And that's actually a great video too. I could probably drop that tweet link in the chat somewhere, but he had a great talk on it on some conference somewhere, and he linked that there. But it was really cool. Really good points in there.
So I have one question, since we're talking about, and this kind of, I think we talked about this last week too. So obviously, like you were just stating, you're not expected to remember everything. If you did, you would be one of those prodigy people that just has this, photographic memory that you can just remember everything. So what is one of your favorite note-taking apps that you prefer to use, and why?
So I have a very strong opinion on this.
Oh God, here we go.
I am a Notion user until death, and I will die on that hill. So the reason I like Notion, I think it gives you the same exact like organization, like structure wise, that everything else does. However, it has code formatting, which for things like the OSCP, where you need to be saving like all these scripts that they give you and using all different kinds of code, even if it's just like, saving like a cross-site scripting payload, that's pretty ridiculous, because who knows, like, I mean, everybody's human. Nobody's remembering like a 75 character cross-site scripting payload off the top of their head, right? Like you're going to save that somewhere. Like everybody uses hack tricks or whatever it is for payloads, and you can format code. That is my biggest thing on there. I like that piece, and I also like that you can embed databases inline, so you can like format like a database almost, and you can use it as like pages inside of a database, so you can like see everything. You can give it attributes. So like if I have a page in the database, like another page, and it's like cross-site scripting, for example, I can give it like certain tags like web-based attacks and JavaScript, or I can give it just like quick tags so I can know right where something's at. So I love Notion, diehard Notion fan. I'm not sponsored by Notion. This is like, no, I'm not getting any money at Notion. If you want to sponsor this or me, please. But I love Notion.
You can tag with Obsidian too, can't you? Like you can use like hashtags and other tags and stuff. Not to take away from Notion. I use Notion for like channel note taking, and I agree. Notion is sick. It's solid. So all good points there.
Yeah, I know you can like another cool feature of it too, which is interesting, is you can like host the pages just on the web. Like if you pay for it, you can just share like your notes straight to the web. Like they'll like host it like a web page. I actually saw this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, but there is a Twitter account. I'm sure you guys probably know it's Husky Hacks. I think the guy's name is Matt. He did a whole like thread on hosting malware on a Notion page that like you can put online, and just by going to like the Notion link, it'll download malware straight to your machine. And it looks seemingly innocent because it's his Notion like site. It says like whatever his username is .notion or .so. So it's pretty interesting. There's some pretty cool stuff that you can do with it.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting whenever like folks use like a public site or something that's public facing like that. Like I've seen people use like Medium for links.
Yeah.
And like the most recent like Ukrainian hack, they use Discord for their to host the malware. So
did they really?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see kind of the way that, because I mean you know that like something like Medium, that'll get through firewall, right? So like it's not
Right.
weird for your users to get on Medium and read an article, especially there's great stuff on Medium. There's a whole StudioSec publication on Medium. But
Right.
you know, if you put like a link that like the one that I saw was lazy. Like they could have done a lot better with that. But like, you know, yeah, there's just a lot of like scary and malicious possibilities there that I think are interesting. Very interesting stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. I talked a little bit with Philip Wiley last week about like that and just some stuff that I saw, because I used to work. I worked in like the AppSec space, but I also kind of like helped a little bit with some of like the phishing things, because they would want a little bit of like reverse engineering on it to try to understand like where things were going if somebody had clicked on it, and just like seeing some phishing like attempts that have been made that like just I've seen. So I can't even imagine like more sophisticated ones, but some of them I was like going through it and I was like, man, this is crazy. Like I probably would have clicked on this too. Like I don't even blame the person that clicked on this at all. This is like super sophisticated.
Yeah, I feel that, and that is an interesting topic. Is phishing links and making them convincing. That I think we should probably. I think on the cybersecurity side, like, you know, I'm not saying that per capita everyone kind of is a little harsh about phishing links. Some of that stuff is so dang convincing that it's like, let's be real, we all would have fallen for that one. You know,
Right.
like, you know, whenever you're doing like a pen test and you're going through like the report writing, how are you able to kind of balance that with your client and kind of say like, listen, you know, just train. You know, you can raise awareness on it as much as you possibly can, but you know, how do you kind of weigh that with realistically, you're not going to bat 1,000.
Yeah, so like I know at least like where I am, that we have like an entire social engineering team. So I'm kind of like removed from that a little bit. And then we also have like a red team and like an ad sim team. So, you know, those people are a little bit more involved with, you know, long-term persistent engagements, where like I'm more like on the, you know, short-term like vulnerability discovery, like exploiting certain vulnerabilities if they would arise, would be more where I'm at. But I'm super jealous of the social engineering team because I think that is such a cool job. And the stuff that I've read that they've like come up with is crazy. And even like to the reverse of it, I have just in the past, like I've been overly cautious about it sometimes. Like we had our company at my last job gave away like DoorDash gift cards. And I was like, I got an email in my inbox and it's like, click here to redeem your DoorDash gift card. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to get the guy from the infosec department to click on a DoorDash gift card link. Like, yeah, right. That's obviously a phishing link. And then we had like one of those company hands-on meetings or whatever. And the HR people like, oh yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed their DoorDash gift cards. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like scraping through my like deleted emails to try to find it. And I went and the thing was expired. I'm like, you've got to be joking. I missed out on like $50 DoorDash gift card because I thought it was a phishing link.
I was gonna say it's really funny that you say that because so we had at my last gig, we had a big meeting about, it was kind of like the end of the year stuff. And towards the end of the year, we have 2 different meetings. Well, the first one was covering like compliance and everything. So they were just going over like phishing and everything and how you really need to watch out for it. Well, then like the next meeting that we had, they were like, oh, well, we're, doing this huge, gift card to everybody because we have all these people remote for COVID. I worked in help desk at the time, and I had literally like probably 30 people email me going, "Is this legit? Like, are we?" And I'm like, I appreciate you. I really, really do. I like where your head's at, but this is 110% legit.
Yeah.
Now, what's really funny about that too is right after we actually had a phishing email slip through, get to one of our IT guys, and he clicked it, and it immediately got some it wasn't ransomware, it was like some sort of virus, but like my boss had to like run over there, yank the freaking Ethernet cable out of his computer, and then like start running a scan and everything on it. I'm like, you work in IT, dude. Like, come on, like you got to have a little bit more, awareness for that type of thing.
Yeah, and that's honestly a good point too. Help desk people are like unsung heroes. I like worked help desk for about like a year, and help desk is the stuff that you deal with at a help desk. Like that, I saw somebody like put it, it's the customer service equivalent of the infosec space, and I'm like, that could not be more accurate. Like you deal with people that are just frustrated at you for no reason. Like you deal with it all, and honestly it's great experience. I look back at like my help desk stuff and I'm like so thankful that I did it because it's such good experience.
I consider help desk to kind of be similar to like waitressing in the aspect that they expect you, like if something goes wrong, they yell at you for it. You're like, I'm not even the program. You're using Cisco products. We work at this company. It's not Cisco. What are you yelling at me for? Like, Jabber doesn't work for you.
Pain.
They're like, yeah, you need to like reprogram my Cisco AnyConnect VPN. It's your fault that it's not working. And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, I'll get right on that. Just put in a ticket.
That's been like a whole topic of conversation that I've seen a lot of like in the past few weeks is like, people, taking some time and doing some time at help desk because that really is like a good stop. Cause just like you guys said, like there are infosec things that you are doing. So you're like, but you're doing some engineering stuff. You're doing some security stuff. You're doing some like network and sysadmin stuff. And the whole time you have to be a diplomat. Like being a diplomat is hard. And
there are 2 things out of everything else that I've ever done in like the 3 years that I was in help desk. There are 2 things that I have pulled away from that have been the most beneficial for me. That is knowing how to troubleshoot and like actually having to look stuff up, because you do that all the time in infosec. There's issues that I come across all the time, and I'm like, all right, let's Google this real quick, before I start bugging my fellow coworkers or anything. And the second one is knowing how to talk to people. And I'm not saying just like standard customer service stuff, like, like knowing how to be genuinely nice to them. I'm talking like there are some times where somebody out on the floor that's, what we would call an end user has a question, and it might not be technical, but then like I have to then relay that information from them to somebody, and I have to turn it into a technical, so that the programmer knows what they're doing. And then, there might be an issue that somebody's dealing with, and instead of them, like I know they're going to end up having this issue in the next day or two. It's just a matter of time. And I have to take something that's technical and rephrase it back to them in a way that they're going to understand. I can't just start dropping, all these different acronyms and technical terms, because they're going to send me back an email that's going to be like, bro, what did you just send me? And I don't understand HTML.
Yeah, you send that back to somebody that's complaining that their internet doesn't work, and you're like, yeah, like what DNS server do you have configured on your computer? And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that?
Like,
it is. It's a talent.
Sir, this is a Chili's. Chill out.
Yeah.
So this is the Chili's.
This is your mom. What are you saying?
Man, yeah. Love it. So, I mean, tying that into, your pen testing, how I mean, and kind of as like learning how to troubleshoot and learning how to research things, how has that helped, that time at help desk, prepared you for pen testing?
Yeah. So honestly, I think this is going to be a really like weird answer, I think, but I think it helped me perfect Googling. That and like my college education helped me perfect Googling. And it sounds really funny, but a lot of like problems that people have and things that you're running into a problem with, other people have like already had that same problem. Like chances are there is a well-documented solution to that problem already somewhere on the internet. And all you have to do is Google it. So yeah, that's been one big thing for sure.
Well, and the neat thing too is, even when you're Googling this stuff, like you're not even necessarily, running across like a Medium, post or anything like that. Sometimes it's literally just checking out on like Microsoft's forums or something, where they're sitting there and they're actually describing everything that they've gone through. You're like, crap, like I've done this too. Like it almost kind of makes you feel smart, because you've got these guys, they're like Microsoft engineers and everything. And you're just like, I did that. I should work at Microsoft. I did the same thing. And me and this dude, same wavelength.
That's a good point too, because you look at it like, I don't know, there's just like, I feel like there's this weird like stigma or like stereotype that like, yeah, pen testing and all these people that work at Microsoft are it's a highly technical field, and there's very smart people that work in it, but I feel like there's this idea that like they know everything there is to know about like computers, and it's just all like right off the top of your head. Like I had to Google like the most embarrassing question the other day, just about like standard stuff in HTTP, because I couldn't remember it. I'm like, I don't remember. I don't even know what it was, but it was like something about like the content type header. I was like I don't remember that off the top of my head, and I had to Google it. And I'm like, that's embarrassing, but like I don't know, like how can you expect everybody to know anything? Then you see like somebody like asking the same question on a forum somewhere, and it's like senior security engineer. They have like 25 years of experience in the industry, and you're like, suddenly I don't feel bad about that question anymore.
Let me one up you real quick, because when I first started out in security, I didn't know what EDR was. Like I legit had to Google the acronym and figure out what it was.
There's so many acronyms, though.
There's so many acronyms.
Yeah, I feel like it would be great. Like at some point, I'm gonna have to like get like one of those like thumbtack panels or whatever that you can hang up, and just put like sheets of like all the acronyms, and just those like quick things that would be nice to refer to on it. Yeah, maybe I won't. That actually sounds like a terrible decision. from a
The worst is when they start trying to make things that like don't necessarily have like an acronym. Like they like try to like make it into an acronym, and then people start referring to it as like the acronym thing, and I'm like, all right, like what is that? And what, like since when have we started using an acronym for that? Because we don't need any more of those.
Yeah.
I had to explain to somebody the other day what TLDR was, and I was like, either I'm really old or you're disconnected. And that's not even like a technical one. That's just one that usually people know, like even when you're looking at like Medium articles or walkthroughs, you know, for somebody that just wants the short nitty gritty of, you know, how they came to something, you know, I'm just like, oof.
See, but I feel like actually like something like TDR, like IARC, I actually like I can't remember that right now, but I'm not even joking. But I feel like those are acronyms that like you come across on like Reddit. But if you're not much of like a Redditor, which I mean I don't feel like I am, like yeah, you like your exposure is significantly reduced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How do you pronounce seam? This is from the Raven.
Well, you just gave it away.
This is
How do you pronounce this thing I'm about to tell you how to pronounce?
I worked for a MS. Oh geez, this is another acronym. MSSP, is that what it is, Mike? Yeah. For like a while, like internship, like all the way back then, and I worked for two people that swore by the fact that it was pronounced Sim. And
I'm not going to say nothing.
I have heard that like way less now. The more that I've like been in the industry, the less that I've heard that. But they were like, would die on that hill. And I was like, I don't know. So I just like pronounced it Sim forever. And then I had like honestly haven't even heard that since. I haven't even like heard people that like say that it's Sim anymore.
What's really bad is that people actually pronounce it the way I jokingly put it in the chat too, where it's like CM, you know, and they just, I've heard it, like not like a ton of people, but I have heard it at least once or twice before. But I was very much one of the culprits of pronouncing it as Sim before. I have since been
I'm going to start calling it a Sim.
A
Sim.
This is dumb. We're getting off the rails. Was that the? I wanted to ask about your Shiba because I love seeing the pictures of your puppy.
Oh yeah, he snuck in here. He managed to open my door somehow, but I'll grab.
I was gonna say, do you have an automatic sliding?
I thought that was a ghost. Actually, I was actually a little scared.
No, it's kind of weird. My apartment just has sliding like doors, so they don't lock or anything, and they're actually like, oh, he's irritated now. But they don't like lock or anything. So they're like a very intelligent breed of dog, and he has now figured out how to open it with his nose. So he will just push the door open and open it whenever he pleases now.
This makes me think of the Rick and Morty episode where like the dogs start like building like robotics and they take over the world. And they like basically start like walking humans to like see how they like it. And this is how
that's funny. That's I'm nervous. He's gonna take over. He's getting too smart for his own good.
Hey man, not to jump off the rails or anything again, but dogs are way smarter than we give them credit for. Like I literally watched on TikTok yesterday, a dog can smell if your blood sugar is too high or low from another room.
Really? That is crazy.
I will send you the TikTok later, dude. It was nutty. I was watching it and I'm just like, I have to share this because I've never seen this before. We're going to start teaching dogs how to code. They're going to be able to look at it and they're just going to be like, roof. And they're going to be like, you know exactly what that is. We speak technical.
To get even more off topic on the dogs, have you guys seen any of the dogs on TikTok that can like communicate with the buttons? Like they'll press buttons and like formulate sentences with the buttons. That makes me like think of the Rick and Morty episode.
I don't have a TikTok, so I'm like insulated from this terror. but now you're scaring me.
The people are littering the chat with highly divisive
This is
pronunciation
this one got me.
questions.
This one got me. Carpace, see the
So yeah,
me. And then this is one. This is another one. This one actually, the Log4j. Whenever who said it? Was it Marcus Hutchins? Who said that it was actually supposed to be pronounced Log4j?
I had heard that. I don't know if
tinker.
it was from Hutchins, but I do remember somebody pronouncing it as Log4j.
Yeah, that blew my mind. And here's where that like that imposter syndrome comes in. I'd already made 4 videos about Log4j, and at no point had I come across, oh, this is actually supposed to be pronounced Log4j. I made like a video back whenever like Kaseya got hit, and I mispronounced Kaseya. I was pronouncing it like Kasaya or something. And boy, the comments let me know. No one in the comments said, oh, it's pronounced Log4j. No one said that. So I think we're all clowns. But anyway.
Yeah. That would give me imposter syndrome too if I like made a video on something and then like a big name security researcher came out and like pronounced it differently. I'd be like, oh yeah, I am an idiot, and I just made it public that I'm an idiot. But there's gonna be people on both sides of the fence, no matter how you say it. You can't please everybody.
Yeah. See, to be fair though, that's why I like doing live streams, and I like so. This is going to be a shameless plug here, and I believe Raven had already posted it. So I believe every Wednesday or most Wednesdays, we have like OSCP prep and everything. There are times where QHum, who's on our channel, who does these live in front of, he could have 15, 20 people watching him. And he might do something where he's like, oh, that like I goofed up and everything. And I like that because it just shows that like, you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to goof up stuff, even if it's something as simple as like a typo or something. It's like, and this guy does this for a living. Like he's a pen tester. I like seeing that because it's like the human side of things. It's like, okay, these guys aren't just, super brainiac know-it-alls. Like they're making up, or they're in the process of doing this box and it's not even an actual pen test, but they still screwed something up. It's just like, I don't know. I like seeing that.
Yeah, I actually included something like that, and I just did like a video walkthrough on a one of the HackTheBox machines with the OSCP thing that we were talking about earlier, and I know. So I went through and did it, and then I kind of went back and tried to see how some other people did it because it was like kind of reversing a veneer cipher, and I knew that a lot of people had used like some Python scripts in the past to like try to get the key from like a veneer cipher. And I tried, and I was like, you know what, this is not my cup of tea. I'm not like great with the crypto libraries in Python. This is just not me. So I included in my video. I was like, because I didn't even edit it out. I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to make a Python script. Let's walk through this. And then I ended up cutting it, and I came back and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't feel comfortable writing this Python script. I'm not great with these libraries, and I don't want to pretend like I am. However, this is the tool that I use to reverse the key. Like, this is what I used, and I'm not great at it. So I don't want to like steal your point there, Make, but that is like, and that was kind of a shameless plug. But I felt like doing something like that was helpful because I remember like now. Like John Hammond is his own like brainiac self, but like I used to like get crazy imposter syndrome watching him just like write a script up on the fly, like reverse a cipher on the fly, like do a script on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, this is hard. Like, that's hard. So I felt like I wanted to throw it out there. I'm like, hey, look at, you know what? Like, I'm a pen tester. I can't reverse a veneer cipher with Python on the fly. Like it's not worth my time. Like here's the tools that I do use to accomplish the same end goal.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like how often, even just when, like I said, when we're streaming or whatever on the Discord, or even if I'm watching somebody else's stuff, like they're going to like GTFO bins, to get the scripts or whatever there, they're going to all these different sites because it's like they don't remember this stuff, like There's so many different commands and different scripts and lines of code that you can run for stuff. Like, there's no way you're going to remember it all. So that's the reason why these websites exist, is because you can use it as a resource for that, you know?
Yeah, there's no reason. And honestly, a lot of like those types of things, and I know this was a whole like beef on Twitter the other day. It was like the OSCP is very like CTF oriented. But like, that's the thing though, like in a situation like that, when would I ever in a million years outside of a CTF need to know how to reverse a veneer cipher with Python? Like, when am I going to use that? I surely will not use that in a client environment. Like, if they're using a veneer cipher to encode their data, they have way bigger problems than that. And I'm definitely not wasting time on writing a Python script to reverse that either. Like, I'll just use the pre-built tool and do the same thing.
Well, and that's why it almost kind of, and I understand the reasoning behind it, but there's two things here. There's one is, you know, and I don't know if it's still true because I haven't done a whole lot of stuff with the OSCP, like looked into it or anything. I'm studying now even just for the EJPT because I'm not as much of a hacker as I would like to be. So I'm like a newbie in all this.
EJPT is great.
Yeah, like just slides for days. I've seen more slides on that than I ever did at a Chuck E. Cheese, okay? I'm just saying. Is ridiculous. But I don't necessarily like the fact that they tell you, oh, you can only use Metasploit on like one of the machines. Like you have to manually do stuff, you know, for manually enumerate and exploit the other machines. Like I understand that to a degree, but it's like at the same time, if I'm doing an actual pen test, I'm throwing Metasploit at it, you know. It might be loud, but I'm gonna use it. And the other thing is the fact that, you know, if you're doing pen tests and everything, a lot of the stuff that you're coming across on TryHackMe and HackTheBox and everything, you're probably not going to be coming across on an actual pen test unless they have some, like you were saying, like if you are able to find some of that stuff, you're like, ooh, brother, you got some other issues that I'm going to end up having to let you know about. And my report's going to be this thick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you brought up a couple good points there. You did. Yeah. Like there's a couple of good points. Like I see where they're coming from with the, you know, no Metasploit. Like, you know, if you're very fluent in Metasploit and you have the Pro/Enterprise edition, you could, you know, completely root the entire OSCP exam with little to no effort. Some of the tools, I understand them, like not including or excluding, because, you know, there is like some rationale behind it. Like you want to know what your tools are doing in a client environment. Like just setting off a tool in a client environment, especially if you have to test on production, like, you know, that's the last thing you want to do is just set a tool running off somewhere and take down their production. But at the same time, I think it's a little excessive to some degree. Like some of the stuff that's banned from the exam, I think is kind of obnoxious. Like it's just not realistic. I've even kind of I wish I would have saw Heath Adams, like the cyber mentor, has the PNPT now, and he's kind of like, you know, it's the OSCP, but it's like anti-OSCP. It's not you don't get flag.txt. That's not like where your points are. Like from what I understand, it's Active Directory based, and that is going to be 95% of network pen tests now. And that's kind of, honestly, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I feel like he was the one that put pressure on offensive security a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I truly believe that. And like, that's probably why they switched to Active Directory. I mean, he had a great point about it, but I think that's another great one. It's just a little bit more realistic based, which I think is really cool. And I've definitely been looking at it, but I think he has more of the right idea. You know, if you have the tools at your disposal and you're fluent with the tools and you understand what they're doing, you're not just blindly running scanners on an environment. You know, why not use them? If you can configure them correctly and not take down their servers, why are you excluding them?
Well, and I like the fact too that it kind of follows the same or similar, and you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you obviously do this stuff for a living, and I'm just a, you know, an analyst over here. It very much follows what you would do on a normal pen test, because there's like a technical report that you're having to write, but then you also have to present to a board of, you know, they're senior pen testers, but I'm pretty sure you're presenting what would probably be a non-technical, you know, report, because that's what you would have to do on a pen test anyways, because you have two different reports. You've got your technical and non-technical. Your technical is covering stuff for your blue team to go in there so that they know exactly what they have to patch and what vulnerabilities you found. But in the same vein, you have to explain why you know, you have to the C-level executives why they need to fork out more man hours, and you have to put it in terms of currency, because otherwise they don't understand what you're talking about. I don't know what Log4j is, but if it costs me $1 million to, you know, if it doesn't get fixed, freaking fix it.
Right. No, that's
Log
spot
Forge,
on.
sorry.
Log4j. No, you're spot on. Yeah, you're really spot on. That's actually a very interesting piece of pen testing too that I don't think is talked about a lot. Where a lot of people see it as a highly technical position, and I would consider it like highly technical, just on the flip side of like what a security engineer does. They just are on the offensive, defensive sides of the coin. But being able to write fluently, and that's huge, because especially like, Make said it, like you present to people that have been in business their whole life. Most of those people that end up on like C boards, like think of the CFO of a company. The CFO probably spent his entire career in like an accounting department somewhere. You think the CFO has any idea what cross-site scripting is? He doesn't care. Like, what the CFO cares about is if the cyber insurance is going to go up $25 million next year because they didn't patch some jQuery library that has a cross-site scripting vulnerability in it. You know what I mean? Like, so being able to write technically, but convey the impact to people that have no idea of what you're talking about is such a, I would say it's like it's just not very talked about in terms of the pen testing space, but it's crucial. Like you can't not interface with people when you go into pen testing, and you can't not be a good writer.
I don't think that like the presentation aspect of it is really talked about much in cybersecurity in general, because even on the defensive side, you still have to, make reports and report to hire, what you're doing on the defensive side. Say there's like an incident, you got to report the incident up and kind of say, hey, here's what we learned. Here's what we're doing to fix it. Here's what we need from you to be able to implement those fixes. Here's what, our desired outcome is. And here's what can happen if we don't do that. And just like you said, like the CFO doesn't care about like the specific malware strain that you stopped from spreading. They care about how much money you save them, and how much credibility that you saved from being lost in the attack, taking a company down.
Right. And that, I was really bad at this, like with my first job. And that was kind of like when I worked in that AppSec space. So I kind of got the chance to do like a little bit of like internal pen testing. And I remember like vividly, there was one day that I found directory traversal on a really like antiquated part of the site for the company that I used to work for. And I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh. First of all, this is crazy. I can't believe it worked. Second of all, like my boss is on PTO for the next week. Like the only other person that this reports to is the CTO. And like CTO spent his career as a developer. He gets it, but he like doesn't necessarily get it. And I remember I had to like tell him, I'm like, oh my gosh, like we need this patched like ASAP. This is bad. Like pants on fire. We got directory traversal. Somebody can find it. Like they're gonna like, you know, they can get to like everything. Like we gotta get this patched. And I just remember he was like, whoa, like slow down. Like what is like the impact of this? Like explain to me what's going on here, because in my position, like I don't know what you're talking about right now. Like he's like, but if it's going to cost us a lot of money, I want to know, and I need to know how and why. So it was interesting. I always just think about that. I always think of that as like one of my first big screw ups, because I was like so scared, and I was like, you know what, I gotta like explain, you know, this is really bad, but I don't know how to like word it right. But it's a great skill to learn. So if you ever like, especially to like anybody that's listening, you know, you ever get like the chance to interface with executives, especially if like it's an internship or something, like that is crazy valuable experience, and it'll help you so much. Because I just feel like I didn't have that a ton, so you know, I kind of like a more the first I had to do it.
Well, and I will say in complimentary to that, complimention's not even a word. It's Monday. I'm already just give me something to sleep. I need night time. But in complimentary to what you were saying is the fact that even if you're blue team, you still have to explain like changes that you're trying to implement. Like every week we end up having, you know, like a change advisory board that if you're trying to implement something, you have to go to them. I mean, I think for most of them, like we have fairly technical knowledge, you know, technical people on the board or wherever to talk to about it. So they have a pretty good understanding of what you're trying to talk about. But there's definitely some people on there that are not technical, and you're just still having to explain, like, this is what I'm trying to change. This is what is going to happen. You know, this is what's affected, and this is why we need this change, you know, and then you have to do your research into it. Like, if you don't, they will literally tear you apart from the inside out on questions. And I mean, it has literally, and it happened to me one time, and it has never, I have made sure I have researched the ever living crap out of whatever it is that I'm trying to do, because I'm like, I will not be made to look like a fool in front of the 130 people that are in on this meeting. Like, it's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's a case of, again, like knowing how to do your own research goes into, you know, a lot of this stuff anyways, especially if you're going to try to self-teach yourself things like on Try Hack Me and HackTheBox. But, you know, in knowing how to talk to people and explain issues and how you're going to resolve them, which is what you do on both blue team and red team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Case
I mean,
closed,
both
like
sides
crap.
of the That's a
Shut her
great point.
down.
It is a great point. I mean, regardless of what side you work on in security, I feel like everybody to some degree like works on a purple team.
Yeah.
Like honestly, you know, my job isn't to find a cross-site scripting vulnerability and then just like wave it in the blue team's face and be like, ha ha ha, look at what I did. Like, you know what I mean? Like
beware.
Like,
imagine if that's how that worked. Like, every organization just has like a bunch of like really annoying red teamers that nobody likes, but like they have to have them, and they're just like, ha ha ha, and then they just like disappear from like, you know, the meeting room, and they're like, what do they do here? Oh, they like find a bunch of vulnerabilities. They don't really help us. It's like, just, I don't know. That sounds really dumb.
They just post it in like the main team's channel. Like, this is what I found. Good luck finding it.
They're just a bunch of like cyber gremlins, you know? They like
Yeah.
find the vulnerabilities and then like hoard them, and then they just kind of like laugh about it. And
Just
like,
don't pour
go,
water
like,
on them,
hide in
please,
their
for the
little,
love
like,
of God.
you know.
that's actually an interesting talking point. I want to hear like what you guys think on this. So this popped up maybe a couple of weeks ago, and it was a little bit of a controversy. There was a pen testing firm, and I want to say it was their red team, so it was like a persistent engagement team, obviously like very experienced penetration testers, and they had an internal 0-day on some product that they did not disclose that they were using for engagements, that they were basically automatically like, they're holding it, like if we developed inside a 0-day in Cisco AnyConnect VPN, everybody uses AnyConnect VPN. If that's instant reverse shell on every single people that we, sign a contract with, why, right? Like, that's like business. I'm curious, like, where do you guys think, like, on the, I guess not necessarily like an ethical question, but do you think that's like right? Like, I'm just always curious to see like what people think about that.
I think that absolutely is an ethical question because it gets to the heart of exactly what we've been talking about this entire time. Like the whole design for a red team is to keep the bad people out, and it's with that communication loop, disclosing those vulnerabilities. So it's like for them, it's a benefit to keep that. Okay, well, I say it's a benefit. It's a marketing benefit to keep that 0-day and to constantly be able to find things and report on stuff. But reputation wise, I mean, now everybody knows that company is kind of shady, right? And as far like ethically speaking, like you gotta tell people, like what's the point in hacking something, and if you're an ethical hacker, what's the point in doing any of that and then not sharing that? Like at that point, you're basically just a hacker, like, or you're a black hat, like black hats will, they'll steal money, so they're doing something with that. But if you're just sitting on it, I mean that there's a term for that, pre-positioning. You haven't determined that you want to put ransomware or anything malicious on it yet because you're still like,
gray hats even do that too. Like they may seem like they're ethical, and they'll find a vulnerability, and then they'll turn around and they'll sell it on the black market or whatever, or the dark web.
Ransomware as a service. Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
I'll tell you what, I didn't learn about RAAS, ransomware as a service, in college. I don't know, Jake, did you?
No, I definitely didn't. I felt like I don't want to like. I'm very grateful for my like college education. I felt like it made me like a very well-rounded learner, especially because I went into college and I was like a biology major. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to like med school. Like that's totally what I want to do. I like went and I became an EMT because my school had like a volunteer EMT service. And I'm like, this is it. I saw somebody throw up like within 5 feet of me and like bleed like within 5 feet of me. And I'm like, yep, this is not it. I hate this. I am switching to something else. We'll never be able to do this every single day for the rest of my life. Like, absolutely not. I love school. I'm all about like more school, super about it, but cannot do the whole like medical thing. So I switched over to cybersecurity from that. So two completely unrelated things. However, I do appreciate my college education. In terms of security, very antiquated. Very antiquated.
I have one question.
Yeah.
You literally were the one that brought this on yourself, okay? Just for the record.
Yeah.
You went from like medical biology realm to cybersecurity. So what caused that transition? Because that is, I mean, I always talk about the transition that I made from automotive to computers. That's a little bit more understandable. Yours is like, oof.
Well, automotive to cybersecurity is also kind of a jump. So there's stuff to unpack there too.
There is, but you can still hack cars and you use some of the same techniques.
That's true.
It's newer though, right? Like, can you hack like a 1991 Honda Accord?
You don't have to do much.
It's
on gas and dreams.
It's hardware hacking.
Yeah.
Fair. You got me there. That's true.
To answer your question though, very interesting. So my dad actually worked for a company that like he worked in like healthcare, like IT, like sales for healthcare IT. And I remember like him talking about like all these like hospitals getting hacked or whatever. And I just had always been like a techie person. I was always into tech, whatever. And when I was trying to like make the switch, because, you know, I was also in the boat where I couldn't go to college for like 6-7 years. Like I was already 2 years into my degree. I was like, I need something that like my like credits are going to transfer over to, that I'm interested in. And I want to like pursue this. And I had an advisor that was like, you know, we have this club, and it's called like the ACM. So it's just like this Association for Computing Machinery. And it's just like a computer science club. And there was actually a kid who was in graduate school that he honestly might be one of the smartest people I know. I don't even know. I think he works for like an AI company now in their like security department, like self-driving cars.
Good Lord.
Very, very smart kid. But he was very into security. And this meeting that I went to, he was doing a meeting, or he was doing like a presentation on hacking this like toy robot that was on the shelves. Like it was using something, and this is a while back, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but he basically could use another phone. He was like monitoring the traffic and then could inject. It was basically remote code execution on this
Furby.
Like, little, like, yeah, pretty much like a little like robot that was like a toy robot, and could get it to drive like wherever he wanted it to. And I was like, that is crazy. That is so cool. I love that. And I was like, I want to learn more about that. And I kind of I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into computer science because I like the idea of being able to build things. And then the more that I like kind of got into that and I started talking with him, I kind of got into the CTFs, and I'm like, okay, this is really cool. There's a whole space, you know, it's very obvious, like with the software engineering space, like that's probably the most popular right now, like to build things and code things. But you know, there's a whole other area of people that just break things. Like, you know, I thought it was so much cooler that there are people that are creative enough to circumvent all these controls, that all these incredibly smart software engineers team up together to make this finished project. And then there's also this community that's like, everything that you guys just did in a board meeting, I'm going to figure out how to break it. And I thought that was so cool. So I was like, I want to do that. Like, that is so awesome. And honestly, like right there, I like fell in love with like the offensive side of security. I'm like, yeah, I want to be a breaker of things like that. That is what I want my job title to be, because that is just so cool to me. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how I went from biology all the way to cybersecurity.
I love it. And I have another like origins question that I wanted to ask, and I wish that we left with this. That's on me. But first, because we're kind of getting a bit close to where we do need to wind this down. Everybody, if you're watching and you haven't done so yet, be sure to join the giveaway. There's a link in the pinned comment to a form. Fill it out. We will pick a name here at the end for a $100 gift code courtesy of our friends at Hack5. One question that I have that is like another origin story question. Finding your password. What took you to creating that name for your channel and your Twitter handle?
So I brainstormed on this forever. There's no rhyme or reason. I was just like in the middle of like grinding a ton of like try hack me, HackTheBox. And I remember I want to say there was like a HackTheBox machine with an XXE vulnerability. And it was like the first time that I saw that you could dump like a password file from like an XXE vulnerability. I was like, that is really cool. And I was like, you know what? Like, you know, I'm going to spell password just like the Etsy password file. And I want to make it like a little edgy, cool, like link name for it, like alias. So I kind of just ran with it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And I'm just going to run with it, stick with it. And it's been with me ever since.
I like it. Have you found my password yet?
Not yours.
If he did, do you think he'd tell you?
I hope I don't.
That'd be funny. No, I love
like,
it.
No. Just wake up someday and you go to like upload a video to YouTube and everything's just gone. And he's like, dang it, he freaking knew it.
It's like,
yeah, of course I know your password. It's Chiefs56. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Chiefs56. I'm just gonna put a
exclamation point.
Yeah,
right. Is it with that? With it, I'm trying to. I don't want to count because it's Monday and we're all tired. But if that meets the password minimum password policy, I think that does.
I think it should. It's
That's
probably
frightening.
like 8 characters,
Okay,
numbers.
let's have a conversation about this is so like high level and like out of our hands, but password policies.
Oh, don't get me started.
Oh
And
boy.
that's a whole can of worms. So
Oh.
maybe we shouldn't dive into that right now, and that can be
I
a part 2 conversation.
I'm just gonna drop this little nugget right here.
Uh,
1, use a password manager. 2, change all of your passwords to be a minimum of 16 characters in length and have it be uppercase, lowercase, alphanumeric, and special characters. And don't just have one special character either. I'm talking litter that thing with them. Put it all over the place. Make it and use your password manager to randomize the password. I have used stuff to crack passwords. I've used tools. If it's very, very short, it is very easy to crack. 16 will take forever to do that. Just do that. Save yourself a lot of trouble later on.
This is a totally a shameless plug, but I do have a passwords video that folks should watch. I feel like everybody that's watching this probably already knows all that information. The target audience for that was not the cybersecurity crowd. So I will post that up front. But we have a question from Tish, friend of the channel. Which operating system do you use? Windows, Mac, or Linux, or whichever? What's your preference?
Okay, so personally, on like my own computer, I have always used Macs. I am a big Mac person. The Unix base, I'm a big fan of it. Although I know it doesn't make them more secure inherently, I just love having the Linux file system. I think it's so much cleaner. I love Macs for video editing. I actually just got the Mac with the M1 Pro in it, and holy cow, can that thing chunk out some videos. I just, that 40 something minute video that I had shot the other day, it exported it in 1080p in like 2 minutes. It was wild.
I love my M1 Mac. Love
It's
it.
so nice.
Do you what do you use for? Do you use VMs on it? Do you use like Parallels? So VMware just came out with the M1 app, VMware Fusion.
Really?
I literally, as we were going live, my dad texted me a link to it, and I have every intention to look into that. But I've been
I'm gonna
using
check that
Parallels up
out.
to this point. What have you been using?
I've been using Parallels. UTM was gross. It just does not work like people want to claim it works. It's just clunky and like the resolution's all screwed up and not worth it. I've been using Parallels. The only thing that bothers me about Parallels is it like spawns like child processes. So if you're like running something super heavy in like Parallels, you end up with like 95 child processes across your bottom bar. That bugs me. So I'm definitely checking out VMware's new M1 architecture version of that. I'm super stoked about that.
Can we just talk about for a minute that you trusted a link from your dad?
He works in cybersecurity.
I don't trust
We have an
anybody.
understanding with links.
I don't trust anybody. I don't give a hell if it's my dad, if it's you, if it's my unborn son. I don't trust links from nobody.
Well, to be fair, if your unborn son is sending you links, yeah, that's probably suspicious. That's official.
Dude, what if I got an email and it was like, here's the future, stock market things or whatever, and I'm just like, yo, it's tempting, but no.
One, that's definitely phishing, and two, even if it wasn't, then that's insider trading. So
That is.
so
See, I'm getting hit from two different angles. This is why I told you I don't trust unborn children.
Jake, thank you so much for jumping on. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was so fun.
Definitely need to do a part 2 at some point.
Oh yeah.
This year has just been doing. Yeah, no, this has been absolutely fantastic. I had no idea you went from bio and wanting to get into med to jumping into cybersecurity. I think you're insane for doing that.
Oh, that is. I thought I was insane myself for a little bit too. So if that's any
Actually,
consolation.
if we're being fair, having to deal with COVID or dealing with some of the stuff that we're dealing with in cybersecurity, you picked kind of the right choice, because I know some people in med and they are not having fun.
Yeah,
You get to break things; they have to fix everything and everyone. So you picked the
that's
right one, brother.
Yeah.
very, very, very true.
Well, and I mean, I think the community is benefiting from you being here as well as a whole, because you've been producing some excellent stuff on your channel, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds. You passed 500 subscribers recently, didn't you?
I did, yeah, this morning actually. I was at like 499 for like 2 days, and then I woke up and I was at like 500, and I was like, yes, finally hit the mark.
Hey, so now you get the community tab.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
enjoy it.
I might need to talk to you about that because I'm still a newbie on YouTube. I'm still figuring everything out.
Hey, it's all a thing. But let's we'll wind up and then we'll die. I hope all of you guys have an excellent Monday. Don't forget, go Chiefs. They play on the Sunday, or they play on Sunday. So big game. Be sure to tag me in any tweets relating to the Chiefs, because I need that in my life. So with that, my notifications are dead. Anyway, see you all next week.